All right. Happy Thursday. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our KaiNexus Training Team Office Hours webinar. This is episode 4, aka the Banna Rippey Show. My name is Ryan Rippey, and I am the Customer Enablement Manager here at KaiNexus. And today I am joined by my co-host, Solutions Engineer Matt Banna. Hi there, Matt.
Hey, everyone. For those of you new to our webinar series, welcome aboard. The way this works is Rippey and I are going to nerd out for about 30 minutes or so on a KaiNexus topic which we'll share with you all in just a moment. The purpose of these webinars is for us to talk about the hottest topics and latest and greatest features suggested by you, our customers.
Thank you, Banna. If we have any questions during the webinar, please feel free to type those in the chat window. Banna and I will be keeping a close watch on that throughout our time today. If we have some time at the end, we can also address those questions many of you have submitted upon registration. So we've received a ton of feedback from our last couple webinars, and it seemed most people were interested in the topic that we've chosen for today, which will be focused all around the KaiNexus basics. So with that being said, Banna, let's go ahead and get started. Let's switch gears and open up our KaiNexus. All right, we are all set and logged in. So KaiNexus is a SaaS platform for anyone new to the platform. We are hosted in the cloud, accessible by any web browser on your computer. We recommend Chrome. You can access KaiNexus through your tablet and even your mobile device through our KaiNexus app. So to get your KaiNexus mobile app set up, all you need to do is go ahead and download that on your phone. Use your org ID, which is going to be whatever you have before the .kainexus.com in the URL. And then just so everyone is aware, our KaiNexus app is currently capture only. So any templates your organization's admins have gone and designated as mobile submission, those will show up for you once you've downloaded the app. So with that being said, we're going to use our trainer persona today as we log into KaiNexus. So let's go ahead and sign into the platform. Now, anytime a new KaiNexus account is created, you'll get a welcome email with a link to activate your account. So go ahead and follow that link to sign in. If you have any issues getting into your account, there'll be an option to click Can't Access Your Account, and going through one of the help options will take you through the steps necessary to get set up and signed into the system. Once you've logged into KaiNexus, you'll be taken here to your default dashboard. So the platform is broken down into 3 key areas. We have the advanced toolbar on the left-hand side of the screen. We have our big display panel here in the center of the screen. And at the very top is our simple header toolbar. So if you don't have access to the advanced toolbar on the left-hand side of the screen, it just means that your organization has opted to hide this to help simplify your view in the system. So I'm going to start in the top right-hand corner with just some housekeeping items. Ted Trainer here, this will display your name when you log into KaiNexus. If I go ahead and select, we can take a look at our profile settings. So here from this drop down, we have user profile, we have feedback, support, and of course, if you need to sign out of the system. Working our way up, support here, this is a really great resource for KaiNexus terminology and functionality. We'll be covering a lot of topics here today, so if you'd like to get a more in-depth dive into anything we talk about today, anything else that you're hoping to get some more knowledge on, definitely encourage you to take a look at our support site. In addition to support, above that is our feedback channel. So feedback, this is for reporting any bugs you think you've come across in the system, but this is also a place where you can have your suggestions for improvement, any sort of platform enhancements in KaiNexus. We take all of those really seriously over here at KaiNexus, so anything we can do to make your experience, your workflow better in the system, definitely send those over to us through that feedback channel. And last but not least is going to be our user profile. We won't dive too deeply into this. It's pretty standard compared to most apps, but if you go ahead and select user profile, you'll get a snapshot of your user profile information, and from the little ellipses icon, you'll be able to edit your profile. You can change your password, change your profile picture, as well as manage your notification preferences. Now, notifications in KaiNexus come in 2 forms. There is both email notifications as well as in-app notifications. So email notifications, whatever email address you have associated with KaiNexus, that's how those notifications will come through. The in-app notifications will be displayed in this little notification bell icon. So this blue notification bell, if you have any new notifications in the system, there'll be a little red badge in the bottom right-hand corner with a number of how many new notifications you have. So when you're coming into KaiNexus and trying to put together your standard work, if you go ahead and click into your notification bell, you'll be able to take action on any of those items that you are currently tied to in the system as a team member, or anything that you've configured your notifications to get reminders about. You'll be able to come in here, dive into those particular items, take the necessary actions, and then come back in here and start to clear this out. So this is a really great way to kind of go through KaiNexus, like I said, set up your standard work, knock out those notifications once you've logged into the system. Now, in addition to notifications, I'm going to go ahead and exit our notification updates window. At the top center of the screen is our search bar. This is a smart search, allows you to search for anything in the system. If you know the name of what you're looking for, you can go ahead and enter it in here. If not, you can try a keyword that you think ties into the item you're looking for. And what it'll do is actually sort your list by what's most relevant in the system.
It even gives you a score for that one, doesn't it?
Yeah, so the other thing, it's nice, you can look up a person in there maybe and see what they're working on in KaiNexus. So very, very powerful functionality with our search bar. Now, last but not least, our big green create button. So once we're actually ready to create a new workflow, such as a project, improvement, or task in KaiNexus, we'll go ahead and click here. Banna, let's talk a little bit more about these workflows.
Yeah, so we have, as Ryan mentioned, a number of workflows in KaiNexus. Here we have improvement, project, task, and chart. Now, we'll start off with projects. Projects are represented with the folder icon in KaiNexus. They're often used for a larger scope improvement efforts, and typically they include a larger team and can be a longer or ongoing initiative. This can even include such things as a rapid improvement event or a Kaizen event, or any of those long-term projects that you really need to group things together. Next, we have improvements, and improvements are represented with the light bulb icon in KaiNexus. Improvements are usually used for simple suggestions, ideas, and observations. These are sometimes titled OIs for short, opportunity for improvement. They can be a number of different improvement types that you may use in your own daily instance. Now, there are two key distinctions between projects and improvements that are important to remember. The first is that projects can nest other projects, improvements, and tasks. So for example, we could have a top-level project with several projects nested underneath, and then maybe several improvements nested within those projects. Improvements, on the other hand, can only nest tasks, not projects or other improvements. So you can have an improvement with a task underneath, but nothing else. The next important piece of information to know is that improvements measure impact. When you have finished work on a project or task, you can simply complete it. And when that work has been completed on an improvement, you will resolve the improvement and have the opportunity to measure both qualitative and quantitative impact. Next, we have a task. The task is represented with a task list or this hamburger-looking icon. Now, these are the to-do items on a project or improvement. You can nest these in either tasks, or you can nest a task in either improvements or projects, or even incidents or charts if you have access to those. And lastly, charts are a way to capture and measure any KPIs. We currently offer bar and line graphs, bowling charts, Pareto charts. You can even do calculated data series and a number of different other features using charts.
Perfect, thank you, Banna. So let's take a look at, when we logged in, we were brought to our default dashboard. The big display panel here in the center of the screen houses what we at KaiNexus call a board. So a board is a collection of cards that shows information relevant to you as the logged in user. Here we see our default dashboard titled My Board, and we have 4 cards on here. Probably the most important card is this top left here. This is a freestyle card where we just took a picture before we got started on the webinar. So here's Banna and myself, your host for today. Well, let's take a look at what we see in some of these other cards. Underneath this freestyle card is a My Tasks card. So this would be displaying any tasks that I was responsible for working on. Those will be displayed here. I'm a very task-oriented person, so after I've gone in and cleared out those notifications, I like to jump in and start knocking out some of my tasks for the day. In addition to tasks, in the top right, we have a My Improvements card. And this is being displayed in what we call our Kanban view for anybody who might not be familiar with this. So with this Kanban view, we're able to see the full life cycle of a particular item, in this case an improvement, as it goes through these different stages in KaiNexus. So let's talk a little bit about these statuses in KaiNexus. In the very left here, this blue new status, this would be any of those improvements, projects, tasks, anything that's been submitted in the system that needs to have both a team associated with it as well as some dates, so a start and a due date. So anything that is new and doesn't have those fields entered will be in this blue status here. Now, let's say we want to go ahead and plan an improvement to start next Monday. If we go ahead and make that start date on Monday, that's going to move that particular item into this light green plan status. And then once Monday rolls around, the system will automatically move this into a medium shade green, which is our active status.
Well, Ryan, if I put it in plan, do I have to give it a start date, or can I just say plan and start it at a different time?
That's a great question, Banna. So anytime you're planning an item in KaiNexus, if you have an exact start date in mind, you can include that. If you want to decide later, you can leave that in a plan status and be able to come back in and update that when necessary. You can also plan items based off of the completion of other items in the system.
So I can make it dependent on something else that has to be finished first?
I like the word you use there. Yes, dependent. That's actually our dependencies feature that we have available in KaiNexus. So a lot of different things we can do with those planned items. Now, once we've actually had something active in the system, so essentially it's being worked on, it means that it's between its start date and its due date. When we reach that due date, let's say, for example, we had an item that was due yesterday and we didn't go in, we didn't edit our date, we didn't complete the item. The system is then going to automatically move this into this red overdue status. So for managers, typically you're going to want to log into KaiNexus and run to the red and address any of those overdue items that you see. Now, for resolution submitted and complete, these last two statuses here, resolution submitted is specifically for improvements. This is this dark green status. So if you have an approval process in place where your frontline end users will go in and resolve a particular improvement, they can then submit that for resolution so that a manager can go in, review the impact that was captured on that item, and ultimately sign off and make sure that everything checks out. Once an item is officially done, no more work is being done on that particular item, then when we complete it, it will move into this black complete status. I just did a blog post actually, Banna, on all these statuses. So if anybody wants a rundown of these particular statuses, definitely encourage you to check out our customer blog. Some really great information on there, especially
blog.kainexus.com/customer.
There you go. Now let's take a look at the last card that we have on my board. This is a My Projects card. And this is actually going to be in a tree view. So as Banna talked about earlier with those particular projects and the ability to nest in KaiNexus, the tree view, you'll see when we start to add some things in the system, we'll be able to see how things are cascading down, or on the flip side, how things are rolling up in KaiNexus. Banna, let's go ahead and start populating these dashboards. Let's create a few items. You up for that?
Yeah, that sounds good to me. So I think first we should jump in and create this small body of work in improvement. Now, when we open up this improvement, you'll see that we have a couple different options here. We have a required field that's a title. We have to give it a title. We have to put a description in. And then we have this optional field that's a drop down for a priority. So to first give it a title, we should move the trash can.
So as Banna was talking about with title is always going to be a required text field in any of your workflows. Typically, you're going to want to make this title unique so that it's easily searchable in the system. Banna went ahead and added this "We should move the trash can" title. And Banna, I noticed there was a little blue badge icon that popped up over in the top right. What was that?
So if we click on that blue badge icon that popped up, it gives us other similar items compared to the one that we just did. So if you enter an improvement and see you have a similar item, you can click in and say, hey, maybe this has already been entered in before. Maybe I can just add on and assign myself to the team with that work.
It's a great way to avoid any sort of duplication in the system.
Exactly. So we showed that we have a title here that we entered in. We have this big open field option where we put in our description. We can give it a priority. If we said it's a hazard, then maybe it's a pretty high priority item.
So Ben, I noticed with the priority, that was a little bit different than those text fields and areas we're filling out. What exactly is that priority considered?
So this priority is what we call an attribute. Now, these attributes are created by your admins and filled in with a number of options. So if you ever have something that you'd like to be added, make sure you contact one of your admins and they can go in and make sure that that option is there in the future.
And attributes are really useful. It's essentially a way to tag an item in the system. A lot of really cool reports that can be run, but essentially with this improvement, Matt's gone in here and added a high priority. If we wanted to filter down to a custom filtered list in the system, we'd be able to find all those particular improvements that were marked with a high priority. So a very powerful tagging mechanism is how those attributes work.
So beneath priority, we have what we call parent. So if we had a project that we wanted to assign this improvement to, we could do that there.
And parent is really that nesting that we talked about earlier. How does that work, Banna? The parent-child relationship in KaiNexus. If I wanted to have maybe one improvement with two parents, does that work?
So you can have a parent with any number of children, but one child can only have one parent.
Got it. Okay.
Next, we have our status and team section. Now, this is what Ryan just went over on our Kanban board. We have our new status that if we hit the create button right now, it would just submit into new. We can also plan it out with an optional due date and say start later or pick a specific date that we want to start at. So if we start at, say, 2 weeks from now and give it a due date of 30 days after that, I can also go ahead and assign that. So we're going to assign this to myself. And then we don't ever want to work alone. So let's make sure we add a couple more people in here to help us out.
So looking at these team roles here, the first on an improvement on a task is going to be that responsible person. So that's essentially who's going to be in charge of leading the efforts on this initiative. Collaborators, Matt went and added in a few other people. Those are going to be anybody who's working with that responsible person on this item. And I also noticed there's a section for followers, Matt. What does that mean? Is that like Twitter?
So followers are a type of user on this project that may not be involved in the work, but they're still interested in the work that happens. So they may not be actually participating in moving this trash can itself, but Benjamin here might really want to know what the outcome of this project is. So he'll still get notified by those things, but isn't going to be doing the work here.
The last thing I want to point out on the screen here, Banna, is once you went ahead and started to put together your team, your dates, there's also this section for locations. Now with an improvement, we have an originating location. So essentially the way that location works in KaiNexus is every user is associated with a particular network location. It's essentially your work group, your department or function that you're a part of. So this is actually tagging that item with myself, what my originating location was. And because we assign this to myself, that's also putting that as the responsible location. So if we were to assign this to another user in KaiNexus that maybe was within finance, that would show that as a responsible location. So locations are another really important aspect of KaiNexus to understand. A lot of reports can be done based off location as well as any sort of filtered down lists in the system as well. All right, Banna, so it looks like we got everything filled out here. Let's go ahead and create that. Can we see the difference between kind of what we saw with our improvement team and what a project team consists of?
Yeah, of course. So now that we see that this improvement populated in the plan status on our My Improvements dashboard, we can go in and create a project. Now, if you remember what the improvement template looked like, this one's a little bit different. We still have our title, and we have a purpose. And then we also have a couple optional fields, our goals and objectives, our scope, our meeting schedule. We have an optional project phase, another type of attribute.
And the one thing that's important to understand is that whenever you're filling out one of these forms, anything that's required, you're going to have to enter some sort of value, some sort of information in there before you can create. Otherwise, you'll get an error. Anything optional, if you're able to enter that information on this create screen, go for it. If not, don't worry. You'll always be able to update that information later on in the process.
Now, one thing that we have here that's a little different from our improvement is our team. Now, Under improvement, we had a responsible, we had an author. Here we have sponsors, facilitators, leaders, participants, and then of course we have followers once again.
So let's kind of go through each of these, Banna. What would be kind of the use case and understanding of what each of these roles means?
So each of these
team members, so like a sponsor, and there's some help text in here, but depending on how your organization wants to utilize these roles, as you'll see, when Banna went in and created this project, it automatically defaulted him to be the facilitator. Facilitator is usually the person responsible for working and overseeing that project. A sponsor would be more of a senior leader who just wants to oversee and keep up with what's going on that project. Leaders, typically we see the leaders used when you have maybe a CI coach that is going to be a part of the project. You can add them in as a leader. Whether you want to use just leader or facilitator is completely up to you. Participants are similar to the collaborators that we saw in improvement. So participants would be any other users in the system that are going to be working with the facilitator to execute on this project. I think that's an important thing to point out while we're here as well, Banna, is as you're building your team out, any of these values you'll see here for these people we're entering in, you have to have a KaiNexus account in order to be added into a team on one of these items. So if you try to search for someone in the system and they don't pop up, it means that they're not in KaiNexus, so you won't be able to see them in here. Participating locations, we should definitely highlight this because you can do more harm by entering this than good if you're not careful. Essentially, adding in a participating location, if we wanted everyone within finance to be a part of this project, then we could add in that particular location and then they would all get the notifications, be able to access and edit this project. So if you're doing some sort of, I don't know, maybe it's like a Gemba walk in some sort of department and want to add everybody on there, you can
maybe
do so.
Maybe a Kaizen event.
A Kaizen event,
yep.
Yeah, exactly. Otherwise, you're going to want to be careful of entering anything in that participating location section. And then, of course, we have our followers. I know you're big with social media, Matt, so we understand what that means now.
Hey, you can give us a follow on Twitter. We'll show you our favorite blog posts.
There you go. So let's go ahead and create that project, and we'll see how that updates on our board now. Perfect.
So now we have our project item in the My Project section. We show the facilitator here when we created it, as well as the improvement up here on this Kanban board.
All right, so let's click into one of these items and go through the breakdown of what we'll see. So I'm going to go ahead and take a look at our improvement here. Now, when coming into an improvement project task, if you're not using some sort of custom layout, this is the pretty standard look of items in KaiNexus. I'm going to go ahead and expand this so we can see this a little bit better. So the first thing I want to point out is the details of the improvement. So you'll notice a lot of this information was originally on that create screen, and I mentioned if there was anything optional that you didn't know what to enter at that time, you can always come back into this little pencil icon and make any changes, any updates, add any more information once you're able to.
And we can even nest from this screen right here.
Yeah, so we'll see that as well. Now, in addition to our details, underneath details is a comment section. So comments allows a channel for communication and collaboration within one of these items. You can record updates, ask and answer questions. This can really help cut down on calls, sticky notes, and email. It can even eliminate having to wait for a meeting to take action on something. In order to leave a comment, just simply type into the leave a comment box. Maybe I want to say this is high priority, as we mentioned with our attribute. And then I can go ahead and post this. That'll just give everyone on my team a little in-app notification. I can also email now. So if I select the email now option and want to choose those specific members of my team, maybe I want to get eyes on this much quicker, then we can do this as well. Let's go ahead and post this. Now our timeline, this is an audit trail that keeps track of everything happening within an item. So who did what, when they did it. You can always go back and cross-reference any updates that are made. So we'll see in the last couple minutes when we submitted this, the dates and team that we've edited, as well as that comment that I just entered in. Now, top right, we talked about our team. If we have access and need to make any edits on the team, we can do so from the little pencil icon. We also have a section for our dates. So we'll see we have when this was created, when it was assigned, when we want to have this start and due, and we'll always have this last updated date for us as well. Last two sections here are files and links. Files, this is where you can add maybe an image. You can do a JPEG, PNG. You can do a PDF here. If you're using a Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, or Excel document, feel free to grab that file from your computer and add that in here. Keep in mind, if everybody's working off of an Excel doc, you're going to have to put the most updated version in there so that everybody is seeing any updates that have been made. For links, a little bit different. If we go ahead and select the add link, we can add a web link. Maybe there's a website that relates to the item we're working on. If you're utilizing Google Drive and have a Google Doc or Google Sheet link, you can go ahead and add that in there for people to work off of.
Ryan always links to his Instagram page.
Yeah, you love social media. So last is going to be the item section. So a little bit different from web links. You can also link items in KaiNexus. So if you had two similar improvements that were being worked on and want to be able to jump back and forth and see what's the latest on those, you can type in that item or search from the drop down here. Now, keep in mind, linking an item in KaiNexus, this is different from nesting, which we're going to go over in just a second. Nesting is when you want to have particular items that are rolling up to a top level project or improvement. So Banna, I think the next step we should go through here is, we went ahead, we planned this improvement. Let's say we want to go ahead and activate this and have it start today. How do I add like a task in here and maybe assign myself a task to work on?
Yeah, that's a pretty easy thing to do. We have this plus button in the upper right-hand corner, and it allows us to add certain things such as a task, a chart, or a new link. So if we hit this task and then hit create, now we have this new task option to add. So we can assign ourselves a task. And we have this optional description, which means that we don't have to add any details if we don't need to. Maybe we can cover everything that needs to be covered in that title.
So Banna, you created the task from within this improvement we're working on, which was really nice. When we started off our webinar, I thought I had to create everything from the create screen. Can I still do my task from there?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So you can create a task from the create screen. You can add in this parent. So since we nested this item, or we created this item from that improvement, it will automatically nest the parent above it. And then we can assign our responsible and then go ahead and create this task. Oh, I guess I didn't give it a due date. So there's an example of
there you go.
Making what happens if you don't put in a required field.
All right, so if you wanted to, you could jump to that unique URL that was generated for us. Let's take a look. Now on our board on the back end here, we have that My Task populating in our My Task section. So Banna, let's say I went ahead and completed this task. I heard it was easy to just go ahead and complete this out. What do I do?
Yeah, so I have this button that says active in the upper left-hand corner here. We can jump down and hit complete and complete our task, and boom, all done.
It's as easy as that?
It's just as easy as that.
All right, so if I've gone in, maybe I had 5 or 6 tasks on my improvement, they're all set, they're done. Do I then complete the improvement? What's that process look like?
Yeah, so we'll go ahead and we said, hey, we moved the trash can, we scoped out the break room, everything's safer now, one less hazard in our workplace. We can go ahead and we can resolve this improvement as well.
Ah, that's right. I remember you talking about this impact resolution here. So here we have a field for outcome. So what that outcome was, and what are these questions, Banna?
So first we asked, did this result in a change? So if we didn't end up making this improvement, if we decided that there was some reason that we couldn't, we're already working on this, it's out of our control, we don't have enough resources, we can put it as a no, and it will be a completed improvement with no change. But here, we did have a change. We moved our trash can. So we did say that it was a safety improvement because we removed one hazard from our workplace. And you know what? I found out that it actually saved me time because the trash can is actually closer to the table. So we can have a specific role that we pick, how many people, what the time saved amount was, whether it was recurring or not. So we'll just say we saved an unknown amount of time. Maybe it was pretty negligible. An engineer was the type of person, or we can even say it was unknown or not. And then how do we base our calculation? We counted. Something super easy. Go ahead and save that. And now we can review this in the future to the trash can, but move back to the original place, yes or no. Let's make sure that it's still in a good place in 90 days from now.
So essentially this review in the future option, by selecting yes, you can use that little calendar icon and select a date, maybe 30 or 90 days out. Maybe you want to double check and make sure that everything still checks out on the resolution. Maybe it's something that you're looking to incorporate in another area of the organization. Whatever that reason may be, you can go ahead and actually give yourself a comment to remind yourself why you're getting that notification.
So on June 27th, that'll pop back into my notification saying it's time to review this improvement.
Perfect.
Now we can go ahead and complete it out.
And one last step here, right, is some notifications maybe we can send out.
Yes. So last, we can share this improvement with anybody that we'd like to, whether they're in our department or another, whether they get it in their digest or it's so important. It's such a groundbreaking improvement that we need to email this right this second.
Perfect. So our last step is to complete the improvement. And so that'll now move that improvement into a complete status. So we're right up at 12:30 here, Banna. That covers everything that we had on the agenda for today. I don't see any questions that we need to answer. So everyone, thank you for tuning in today for the basics that we've covered. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to your customer experience manager. And should we go with our sign off?
Oh, of course.
This has been Ryan Rippey and Matt Banna with KaiNexus.
We'll see you next time.
Keep improving, everyone.